I was part of a team sent to Antarctica for what should have been a straightforward research mission. We were there to study ice core samples, measure atmospheric changes, routine work for someone in my line of expertise. The only unusual aspect was the location. A remote station deep in the Antarctic interior, isolated even by Antarctic standards. It was the kind of place where silence ruled, interrupted only by the occasional howl of the wind or the groan of ice shifting beneath your feet. When we arrived, it was breathtaking. The vast, endless expanse of white under a pale blue sky was unlike anything I'd ever seen. But as the weeks passed and the polar night settled in, cutting us off from sunlight entirely, the beauty gave way to an oppressive kind of loneliness. The only thing connecting us to the outside world was a fragile radio signal. It started on the 10th night. I was in the common room, going over some data while my colleagues, Dr. Keller and Sam, played cards. Suddenly, the faintest sound reached my ears. At first, I thought it was static from the radio, but as I focused, I realized it was something else, something human. It sounded like whispers, so faint I could barely make them out. I turned to the others. "Do you hear that?" I asked. Keller paused mid-shuffle, tilting his head. Sam shrugged. "It's just the wind," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. The thing was, I'd heard the Antarctic wind. It was chaotic, howling, screeching, even moaning sometimes, but this wasn't that. This was rhythmic, like a voice, or maybe voices. Keller dismissed it, and we went back to our tasks, but I couldn't shake the feeling. That night, I couldn't sleep. The whispers seemed louder now, as if they were right outside the station. I got up, pulled on my parka, and stepped into the vestibule, the small area between the living quarters and the outside world. I opened the heavy outer door just enough to peer into the blackness beyond. The wind stung my face, and snow swirled in chaotic patterns, but beneath the storm's roar, I swore I heard something. "Leave, not yours." The words, or whatever they were, sent a chill down my spine, colder than the Antarctic air. I slammed the door shut and locked it tight, retreating to my bunk. The next day, Keller was unusually quiet, and I noticed dark circles under his eyes. When I asked if he was okay, he avoided my gaze. "Didn't sleep well," he muttered. I wanted to press him, but Sam interrupted, saying we needed to focus on our work. By the third night, things escalated. Sam woke us all up, shouting about footsteps outside his room. "Someone's out there," he insisted, his voice shaking. Keller and I grabbed flashlights and checked the station's perimeter, but the snow was untouched. No footprints, no tracks, nothing, but the whispers grew louder. They were unmistakable now, a chorus of voices just beyond comprehension, as if the ice itself was speaking. The next day, Keller finally snapped. "It's them," he said, pacing the common room. "The whispers. They're trying to warn us, or maybe scare us. I don't know, but they don't want us here." "Who?" I asked. "I don't know," he said, his voice breaking, "but I'm not staying to find out." That night, Keller packed his gear and announced he was leaving, even though it was suicide to head out alone during the polar night. Sam and I tried to stop him, but he was determined. He left at dawn, or what passed for dawn, in the endless darkness. We never saw him again. The next few days were a blur. Sam and I worked in silence, avoiding the topic of Keller and the whispers, though both hung heavy in the air. The station felt alive, as if the walls were breathing. At night, the voices seemed to surround us, growing louder, more insistent. "Leave. This is ours." On the 5th night after Keller's disappearance, the radio went dead. Sam panicked, saying we needed to abandon the station and head for the nearest outpost, but it was over 50 kilometers away. "We'll freeze to death," I argued. Sam didn't care. He packed his bag and left in the middle of the night, leaving me alone with the whispers. The final night was the worst. The voices were inside the station now, whispering in my ear, calling my name. I locked myself in the lab, clutching a flare gun for comfort, though I knew it wouldn't help. Then, the whispers stopped. The silence was more terrifying than the noise. I stepped outside the lab, and that's when I saw it, carved into the ice in the hallway, illuminated by the pale glow of emergency lights, were words, "Not yours." I don't remember much after that. A rescue team found me days later, half frozen and delirious, muttering about the whispers. Keller and Sam were never found. To this day, I can't explain what happened at that station. The scientists said it was isolation-induced paranoia, a mix of stress and the oppressive environment. But I know what I heard, and I know what I saw. The ice doesn't forget, and sometimes it speaks.